But I really do think next season will either sink or swim based on what we do this summer in the transfer window. Well, based on what we've seen so far, might as well go ahead and change our name to Titanic FC. What's up, guys, and welcome to the Blues and Stripes. Today, we are going to focus on the Club World Cup and some of the transfers that have already happened and seem like they've fallen through. Since we are less than a week away from the start of the Club World Cup, very excited to see the Blues in Atlanta again, but before we get to that, let's go ahead and talk about what has happened so far in this little mini transfer window that we had. So obviously there were a lot of rumors going around about who we were going to sign, whether we were going to get a top-level experienced player in goal, up top, in defense. And I think it really goes to show that once again, we have signed nothing but youth in this short amount of time. Now, obviously that can change once the transfer window opens back up after the Club World Cup, but considering there are a couple of players that seem like we could have signed them right now that are experienced and we didn't take that chance, it kind of tells me that the transfer team hasn't changed. We're still the exact same as we were last year. We're going to be looking to sign young, sign potential, not actually sign the experience. And granted, I do think this year will still be okay because we have young players that are starting to get that experience, and players like Caicedo, players like Cucurella, I think even Palmer will have learned a lot from this year. I think we will start to see them being a bit more consistent throughout the season, although Caicedo and Cucurella were already consistent pretty much all year. But I do think lacking that experience to help guide some of these young players will keep them from hitting, I think, the top potential we could possibly see. I think a lot of them have the potential to be world-class consistently throughout the season. I don't know if they're going to hit that, though. I think we will see moments of world-class essence from them, but the experience is really what helps them reach that full potential, and I don't think we're going to get that from this transfer team. Now, with that being said, looking at some of the rumors, the big ones that were announced, I will say, even though I am disappointed we didn't get that experience, I'm not going to sit here and go, oh, well, this guy didn't come in and that's ruined our season because we didn't get him. He would have been perfect. We don't know for sure. I think the perfect example of that is Mike Maignan, or however you pronounce it, because yes, he seems like he's a really good keeper. Obviously, he's done very well at AC Milan. AC Milan have a lot of issues right now, so there's a good chance we could have gotten him for a pretty cheap amount. But people were claiming he was one of the best keepers in the world. He would have come in and fixed all of our goalkeeping problems, but we don't know for sure. Because if I'm being honest, a lot of what I'm hearing about him is the same stuff that I heard about Kepa, same stuff that I heard about Onana. And watching his performance against Spain, it looked very Onana-esque. A lot of the mistakes he was making, he wasn't coming out. His shot stopping seemed pretty pathetic at times. Now, granted, he could just have been having an off game. He could have been not fully focused because it's just the Nations League, blah, 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 all these excuses. But if that is in his game, if he is capable of that type of performance, I'm always going to be concerned that are we going to see that type of performance today? And also, every time I hear that somebody is a ball-playing keeper, I always just get concerned because that very rarely equates to they're also a good shot stopper. So that's one that, yes, I would have appreciated the experience that he would have brought in, but I don't know for sure that he would have absolutely made us better. As far as the rest of the players that we were linked with, I mean, there's a chance. We never really know when they're coming over from another league. When you think about Osimhen, when you think about Gyökeres, some of these strikers tear it up in the leagues that they're in, and then they come to England and they're just not as effective. Same for some of the wingers we were linked with. I know Gittins and Nico Williams were kind of two of the big names that we were focused on. There's a chance they could have been really good, or there's a chance they might not have been able to deal with the physical nature of the Premier League. So I do think that not getting experience hurts, but I'm not going to sit here and say that the guys that we didn't get were the be-all, end-all. I do think they probably would have helped in some aspects, but there's a chance they could have also flopped. The Premier League is a different beast altogether. I do think the one area that we can tend to rely on when you think of experience is going to be in center defense, because I do think most defenders, if they have the experience and if they're intelligent enough, like what we saw with Silva, I think they can adapt to the Premier League pretty well and read the situation to keep everything pretty stable in the back. But looking at the players we did bring in once again a lot of youth and inexperience, potential maybe. Starting with the first one, Liam Delap. This is the one that's probably the most likely to kick off quicker because he has played in the Premier League. He is used to what this league is going to bring. The only hiccup he might have is he going to fit in Maresca's system? Is he going to be doing what Maresca wants him to do? But as far as just dealing with the physical nature of the Premier League, he is going to be up for that because we saw he could do it last season with Ipswich. What I do like about his transfer is it does bring something a little different up top. I still am a big defender of Jackson. I still think he has a lot of strengths to his game, and I think he does need to have time and competition to reach the heights that I think he can get to. But I think there are gaps in his game that I'm hoping Delap will be able to fill in whenever we have competition that maybe Jackson's just not up to. Because if you look at Jackson's strengths, a lot of what he does well, he makes good runs in behind. He has a lot of pace. His link-up play is pretty good as well. So he is very well suited whenever we build out quickly, whenever we're kind of countering on teams, and whenever there's a lot of space to get in behind. Now, I know people are going to point to how many times he gets called offside. I do think some of that is the naivete, but there are some times whenever he times his run well, it's the person on the ball didn't release it quick enough. I think if the players around him can start to see that a bit quicker, that's why Palmer and him link up so well, I think we'll start to see those runs come off more often than not. Now with Delap, what I saw from him the few times I did watch Ipswich, because granted, I was not watching them every single game, but he seems to be a lot more aggressive. He's very good at running at defenders. He's very much a bully in the box. Didn't see him scoring a whole lot of headers off of crosses, so that's kind of something I was hoping he might bring since Jackson's not good at it, but maybe he's not that type of striker either. But at the very least, he's going to be putting a lot of pressure on the big center halves, the ones that are going to be trying to bully the striker. He's going to be up for that fight. Whereas Jackson, I feel like more often than not, he's trying to get around them rather than trying to fight with them. So I do think even if Delap is not getting on the end of crosses when teams pack it in, I still think he's going to be enough of a physical presence in there to open up the space a bit more than Jackson's runs do. So I do think he will help us in those games whenever the teams are playing a low block. So it gives us something a little bit different, and I do think it's a good pickup. Now, obviously, a lot of people are saying if he's our only striker pickup, they won't be happy. I can understand that because I do think having a bit more experience and maybe somebody that is a bit better in the air will help. But if we just stick with those two, I think we have enough between those two to account for most situations. But we will need to improve goal scoring on the wings because they may not either of them be 20 goal a season striker. So we're going to be relying on goals from everywhere. And I think Palmer can bring plenty, but we need our wings to start stepping up in that area more. And since right now all we really have is Neto and Madueke, we're definitely going to need more because neither of them are prolific goal scorers. But quickly looking at the other two, Mamadou Sarr was the next one to come in defense, and okay, I mean, last time we picked up a defender named Sarr from France, it was a horrible, horrible decision, probably one of our worst defenders that we ever had, but sure, let's try it again, 19-year-old Sarr. Like, I'm pretty sure Malang Sarr was also 19 when we picked him up, and he was god-awful. Why are we doing this again? But, granted, he is coming from Strasbourg, who just had a really good season. Granted, I don't know much about him because I don't really watch football outside of the Premier League unless it's Champions League, but just looking up some quick stats to kind of figure out what type of defender he is, it seems like he's a ball-playing defender, so probably suits Maresca's system a little bit more. But his defensive stats are not great compared to other defenders. Don't know how that's going to translate to the Premier League, but at 19, I don't expect him to step into this team and be better than anything else we have. Maybe Disasi and Badiashile, but that's not that hard to do. So I just don't think this is a really good pickup. Maybe one for the future. There's just not much there for me to get excited for. And I'll say the same thing about Dario Isugo. Don't really know much about him. Apparently he played for Las Palmas last season, played quite a bit. But from what I can tell, looking at his stats, he seems to be mostly just a defensive mid. His defensive stats were pretty good compared to other defensive midfielders, but his passing does not seem that great. So he's not really going to upgrade on anything we have, including Andre Santos, who's coming back. So where is he going to fit in? I'm assuming he's going to be one for the future, but we need to improve now. And I know we are going to have some improvement because, again, some of these players are maturing. They're getting better every year, but we still need to fill in some of these gaps. We still need some experience to help these young players. And considering we just sold off our most experienced player in Bettinelli, yes, he didn't play, but he's at least been around for a while. Who's the experience now? Where is that coming from? Everybody feels like they're just sort of learning on the job, and that's not going to help us in the long run. Because while these players will get that experience and that will help them improve, you still need the experienced players that have already been there to show them how to utilize that experience and make it useful for them in the future. And we don't have that right now. So that's been the issue for the past couple of years. It's still seemingly going to be the issue unless things change in the second transfer window. I don't think it will. I really do feel like a lot of these rumors that were going around, these contacts that were being made, I think Magnan is probably the best example of what this transfer team does. You know, they inquire, they make it seem like, oh, we're going to get this experienced player, but then ultimately they find a reason to not do it because that's not who they want. That's not their strategy. They want their strategy and they want it to work. Whether it will or not, we still have yet to see. They're very stubborn. They're very focused on doing what they want to do, but they probably understand that the fans have been pushing for more experienced players. They've probably been online. They've probably heard people, probably not like me because I don't have much of a following. They probably heard some of the other Chelsea YouTubers out there that have been talking about all this experience we need. The people on media that are talking about the experience that we need, how it's too young of a team to be effective. Maresca even at one point said we were too young to compete for the title. So to make a good show of it, I feel like they're going after these experienced players, but then they find a reason to pull out, whether it's wages, whether it's, he's just a little too much. I know he's still stupid cheap for what an experienced keeper like him should be, but he's a little too much for what we want to pay. To me, that just screams of you're looking for an excuse to not sign an inexperienced player. I would not be surprised at all if that's why they're doing this. That's why they made the contact but didn't go all the way through with it. Could be wrong. They might prove me wrong in the next transfer window, but I'm not expecting it based on what I've seen so far. But I'll do my best to keep up on transfer stuff throughout the summer. I will say I don't have a whole lot of time to go and look at all of the different stories and figure out all the different rumors and basically do a bunch of research on all this stuff. But I will at least talk about what I've heard. I will talk about the players that I have heard about, and I will try to do at least a little bit of research to figure out what type of player and what can we expect from them. Obviously, stats don't tell the whole story, but I'll try to do my best to figure out what I can from their stats and stuff like that. But I'll try to keep up with that throughout the summer. But now let's focus on the Club World Cup, because we have the squad announcement today, and let me tell you, pretty disappointing. From what I understand, part of the reasoning that they went with what they did is because they wanted to look at it as an extension of this season, which means they didn't want to put too many people in that were on loan or were not with this team throughout the season. But I'm going to call bullshit on that because we're including all of our new signings. Sarr is there, Isugo's there, and Delap are there. We're including Santos, who is not with us. There are players that they're including. Why would you not include Petrovic then? All I can think is it means he's out. And I don't know why. I don't know what would have caused that. Because I'll be honest, when I heard Maignan wasn't coming in, I was okay with that. Because again, I don't know if he's going to be good, and the only reference I have is that France and Spain game. But I'm looking at it going, Petrovic is fine. Petrovic should do perfectly fine in this scenario. Let's just go with Petrovic. Why not give him a chance? He was fine last season. He did well at Strasbourg this season. Give him a chance and have Sanchez as your backup. As long as Maresca's not forcing him to play out of the back, he's a fine second string keeper. He'll do okay in the games where we need him to. But instead, we're going with Sanchez. We're going with Jorgensen. Penders, I don't know anything about. I've heard he's very, very highly rated as a young keeper, but he's obviously too young to step in right now. Why would you not put Petrovic in unless you're planning to get rid of him? And if you are, why the hell are you doing that? Probably because they can make a good profit on him. Probably because he did so well for Strasbourg. We had a bunch of people coming in saying, hey, we'll pay you a good amount for him, way more than you paid to get him. This stupid transfer team and the stupid board that just wants to make money, don't actually care about success, looked at it and said, you know what? I like that. We'll take that deal. And so now he's not involved. And that's really disappointing. And it pisses me off to no end. That's probably what's going on. Could be wrong. It could just be down to, well, we didn't want to bring our on-loan players except for one exception for some reason. I don't know why. Like, if you're going to make the exception for Santos, there's no reason you shouldn't make it for Petrovic as well. Because it's not like we need midfielders. You've got Caicedo, you've got Fernandez, you've now got Isugo coming in. And even though he's not anything special, you do have also Dewsbury-Hall. So you've got 4 options in that midfield now with the new signing. You don't need to bring Santos in as well, unless it's not about the players that were on loan, unless that's not the reasoning. So that's why I'm leaning toward no. It's because they're planning on selling Petrovic. We'll also talk about the fact that Nkunku's going. Why? And don't get me wrong, I know that I'm one of the few that think this, but I still think Felix is a better option at the 10 than Nkunku is in Maresca's system. I think he works so much harder than Nkunku. He's much more clever. He's able to play a lot better in those tight spaces that tend to happen whenever teams sit in against us. He's a much better option than Nkunku there, and yet he's out. We've given away his number to one of these new guys coming in, and Nkunku's here. And hell, even Paez, from what I understand, Paez is a 10. From what I understand, Esteval Willian, he's also wanting to play at 10. So we have these other options that at 10, we don't need Nkunku, and yet he's still in the team. He's still being brought along. Are they not planning on selling him? Do they not see how uninterested he is in being here right now? Like, I don't understand. I really wish I was involved in the backrooms at Chelsea right now because I just want to know what is going on in their brains. I want to know what they're thinking. I want to know, is it purely financial or is there something else going on here? Is there attitude problems? Is there something that they see that nobody else in the world sees because they're just idiots? I want to know what the problem is. Is it Maresca? Is there something he's doing here? Does he prefer to stick with Sanchez over Petrovic? If so, we just need to move him on then, because he's an idiot. For the Nkunku argument, is he still looking at Nkunku and going, you know what? I think we could still use him as a 9. If so, we need to move him on because he's an idiot. Like, I want to know the reason why. That's my biggest concern, is that we don't know why. We know what's happening, but we're not getting any answers as to why. They're giving us some spewed bullshit that doesn't make sense when you look at, oh, well, it's just about the players that were here versus the players that were on loan. Yeah, okay, then why is Santos there? Like, what you're saying and what you're doing do not match. So we know you're lying to us, but we want to know the truth. We want to know what's actually happening here. Again, when you look at the transfers, they're saying one thing, oh, well, he was just too expensive. How much more expensive was he? Only $8 million more. Now, obviously, that's a lot of money to us, but in the world of football and these transfers and stuff, $8 million is nothing, especially for an experienced keeper who's been playing at the top level for quite a while. Paying $8 million more for him than what you value him as shouldn't be an issue. And yet here we are, you're not buying him. So you're saying, oh, it's about the money. We're seeing, no, it's about his age. You probably way overspent for a Sugo and Sarr, more than likely. Delap, the only reason you didn't overspend is because he had a release clause. I'm looking at all of this, and what they're saying and what they're doing do not match. And I will say, kind of the same way I feel about Maresca too. What he says and what he does, two different things. So maybe he is perfect for this club and this board. But from a Chelsea fan perspective, it's getting really frustrating to see these conflicting things. And especially considering next season is going to be a big season for us. Our first year back in the Champions League, it's going to be tough. We're not going to have the same amount of rotation that we did before, which means we're going to need a lot more depth and quality. And as much as we had a lot of players, once you got past that first team, the quality really dropped off. So this season, we're going to need more players that are closer to the level we need to be if we want a chance of competing on multiple fronts. I'm not saying we have to win. I'm not saying we have to win all these competitions, or hell, I don't even think we need a trophy next season as long as we get Champions League again and we're competing for that title. We're in that race. We're not competing for that 5th or 4th spot. We're not barely squeaking in on the last day. I think, to me, that's progress for next season. And then the season after, that's when we can talk about what trophy are we winning. But this season, I want to see more progress in the domestic tournaments. I want to see more progress in the league. And I want to see us do well in the Champions League. But I don't think we're going to get that based on how this transfer team is working, based on what we're seeing in this Club World Cup, the players that Maresca is bringing. Is this going to be the team we're seeing next season, or is this actually what they're saying of, no, this is just an extension of this past season? I don't know. It certainly doesn't seem like it is, but who knows? Maybe they are actually just looking at it and going, you know what, Santos, he would provide some depth in the midfield, so let's go ahead and do that. Yeah, these new signings, they would provide some depth in some positions, so let's just go ahead and bring them along. If that's actually the way they're looking at it, it's stupid, but at the very least, it gives me some hope going into next season that we are going to see better transfers coming in. We are going to see the likes of Petrovic staying, but I'm just not confident because this transfer team and this board have not given me a reason to be. These past 3 seasons have constantly gotten my hopes up a bit before immediately dragging them down. Last season, we ended well. We managed to find a way to win a trophy. We managed to find a way to get Champions League. But now going into this next season, I'm seeing some of the same mistakes again, and I'm worried that we're going to now be competing at a higher level. We're just not going to be ready for it, and it's really going to hurt us. So anyways, apologies for that long rant. I just had a lot to say and I needed to get it off my chest. Look forward to this weekend. I will be doing a preview for Monday's match against LAFC. It'll be nice to see Giroud again. I haven't had a chance to see him yet, even though he's been here in America, because I don't know if we've played LAFC here. If we have, I haven't been interested in Atlanta United in a while. But it'll be my second time seeing the Blues at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, so I'm excited for that. And also excited to see a lot of other Chelsea fans, maybe even some of the Chelsea content creators there. That'll be fun to experience. But with all that being said, those are my thoughts on the transfer window so far and on the upcoming Club World Cup. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on the transfers and your thoughts on the upcoming tournament? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Chelsea reviews, previews, and talks. And until next time, I hope you guys have a great day. I will talk to y'all later. Peace out.